Hey everyone, my name's Rory and I'm excited to show you the FarmBot Genesis version 1.2 production kit. So all the parts in our kits come in these two boxes. All the plastic parts, the metal plates, the motors and the electronics, the screws, nuts and bolts come in this bigger box over here. And then the longer components, the aluminum extrusions and the lead screw come in this box here. So in this video series, we're going to do an unboxing and we're going to get an in-depth look at each of the FarmBot components. We're going to talk about the technical specifications of them, as well as some of the manufacturing details of how we produce these parts. So you really get an understanding of what it takes to build a FarmBot kit. We're also going to be discussing the design details and a little bit of how to actually put the FarmBot together to help you in your assembly process. So let's get started with the unboxing. We'll start out with the extrusion and lead screw kit. We have put these cardboard edge protectors on the box to protect all the contents when it's in transit to you. So each of the aluminum extrusions inside the box has been individually wrapped so that the pieces do not scratch themselves or each other when in transit. And these are really cool. These are called aluminum extrusions, and they have been black anodized because we think it looks really awesome to give the FarmBot a nice aesthetic in your yard or in your office or research facility. These aluminum extrusions have a special profile that was actually designed by another company called Open Builds. This is actually a completely open source design, and you can check out and order these extrusions from Open Builds as well as our shop. What's cool about the design is what's called the V slot. So if you look closely here, there is these chamfered edges which mate with the V wheels of the FarmBot system. And these wheels are able to move along the tracks, and that allows FarmBot to move very precisely in the X, Y, and Z directions. So not only is the aluminum extrusion a structural element of FarmBot, it's also the linear guide system of FarmBot. Another component or another feature of these extrusions is the slot here, which allows us to put in T-nuts, and then we can tighten other components and attach other components like plates and plastic pieces and the electronics case to the aluminum extrusions directly. And what's really great is that you can position those components anywhere along the length very easily. Once you put it on, you can just slide it around, tighten it down, and it's fixed in place. So this is a really cool, fun building block that we made FarmBot out of. It's kind of like a really big erector set for farming robots. So there are 8 aluminum extrusions included with each FarmBot kit. There are 4 track extrusions. This is the 20 by 40 millimeter size extrusion. So that's 20 millimeters this way and 40 millimeters in this direction. And then each of these track extrusions are 1.5 meters long. So there's 4 of those, and those add up to a FarmBot that is 3 meters in length total. There are 2 of these extrusions. These are the 20 millimeter by 60 millimeter size extrusions, and this is the gantry column. So this is mounted vertically and moves along the tracks and forms part of FarmBot's main gantry structure. This is called the gantry main beam. It is also a 20 by 60 millimeter aluminum extrusion. It's also 1.5 meters wide, and it is mounted on top of the 2 columns and is the primary structure of FarmBot, moving back and forth along the x-axis. And last, we have the z-axis extrusion. This is a 20 by 20 millimeter aluminum extrusion, and it moves vertically through the cross slide to move the universal tool mount up and down. This is a stainless steel 8 millimeter diameter Acme threaded lead screw, and this, in combination with the z-axis extrusion, allows FarmBot to move up and down in the Z direction. Now we'll move into this main kit box, which has all of the other components of the FarmBot Genesis kit. So all of the other components of the FarmBot kit are in this box, and they're organized kind of by category. So let's go through and pull them out one by one and see what all the different components are about. In the cable bag are many of the wires for the FarmBot kit. We also have what's called the socket box. This is a rainproof box, so we put the power supply and also FarmBot's vacuum pump that's used with the seed injector inside here, and that keeps it protected from the rain. So what's important to note is that when you're unboxing your FarmBot, there are some components that are stored in here. So you'll want to open this up, and inside you will find this bag, and this has some miscellaneous components of the FarmBot system. So we have 3 different cable carriers, one for the X, Y, and Z direction. They are all different lengths in the FarmBot Genesis version 1.2 kit, though we may modify that in future kits. The cable carriers are flexible, hollow plastic chains. So what these do is they serve as an organization mechanism for the cables and also the tubing of the FarmBot kit. It helps keep everything nice and contained so that when FarmBot is moving around, you don't have cables snagging on other components or being a general mess. So during the assembly, we recommend you actually pull all of the tabs off, and then you can go through and lay in the cables and tubes and organize them very nicely and get them to fit in correctly. And then after you lay those in and get them properly organized, you can go ahead and snap these plastic tabs back onto the cable carrier. These things are pretty fun. This power supply is manufactured by a company called Meanwell. They're known for making very high quality power supplies. This is a 29 amp, 12 volt power supply. This power supply has 3 positive voltage outputs and 3 negative voltage outputs, as well as the ground, neutral, and live wire for the input. This power supply can accept both 110 and 220 volt inputs, and you can specify which input voltage you're using on the side here. So whenever you are modifying or adjusting the electronics or putting it together for the first time, you'll want to make sure that everything is unplugged, that there's no power in the system so that there's no risk of electrical shock. And again, this will ultimately be inside of this socket box here. The next component in our kit here is the electronics case, or the electronics box. The Raspberry Pi and the Arduino Mega, and also the ramps board and the stepper drivers are all stored in this box here, and everything comes and plugs in there. So this box is mounted onto one of the vertical columns, the gantry columns, and there is a rubber gasket here that needs to be seated correctly to make sure that this box is rainproof. We have machined a slot in the bottom of this box, and that's where all of the cables come in to connect to the Arduino and also the Raspberry Pi and the ramps board. This is a 12-wire cable that was specially produced for us by a company called IGUS. They are the manufacturers of this very flexible 12-wire cable, and they put on all these connectors and stripped the insulation off for us to make your job a lot easier. Each one has a number on it written with white ink indicating which number it is so that you can match up both ends, one at the universal tool mount and one at the Arduino. Next, we'll open up the hardware kit box. This has a bunch of the little components, the screws, the nuts, the bolts, the T-nuts. So in here, the first thing you'll notice is the 2 tubes. These are for the vacuum pump in order to suck air through the seed injector to pick up seeds, and another tube for the solenoid valve and the watering tool. So this delivers water from your garden hose to the universal tool mount. There is a bag that holds all of the GT2 timing belts. So these interface with the pulleys on the motors and allow FarmBot to move in the X and the Y directions. We have a bag that has all of the polycarbonate V-wheels. Again, these V wheels are specially designed to interface with the aluminum extrusions to allow FarmBot to move around very precisely. There's a bag with a whole bunch of little components. We have the T-nuts, lock nuts, M3 and M5 size. We have a bunch of M5 and M3 and M4 and maybe even M2.5 screws. There's the compression springs for the universal tool mount, some spacers, the flex coupling for the Z-axis, the pulleys, the magnets for the tools, looks like the Delrin lead screw block, and there might even be some other components in here that I can't see right now. Each of these little bags has a label on it indicating what is in the little bag, so you can distinguish between the M5 by 20 and the M5 by 25 millimeter screws, for example. So you'll want to pay attention to those labels when you're assembling your FarmBot so that you select the right screw according to the documentation. With every FarmBot, we included all of the tools needed to assemble the device. In this small box, we have some electronics. This right here is the 12 volt to 5 volt adapter. It takes the power coming from the power supply and converts it to 5 volts in order to be used with the Raspberry Pi. Here's the Arduino Mega, and this is the microcontroller that accepts G-code and F-code commands from the Raspberry Pi and then converts it to turning on the solenoid valve or pulsing the stepper motors to move. This is the ramps shield. This is a circuit board that mounts on top of the Arduino and provides a nice pin out for some of the other components. And this is also where the power supply is plugged into for the stepper motors. On top of the ramp shield is mounted 4 of these Pololu stepper drivers, and these stepper drivers are what convert the pulses from the Arduino into actual powered steps for the stepper motors. And also in each of these little bags is a small heat sink. The heat sink has a sticky backing, and you can peel off the wax paper and stick it onto the stepper chip, and that helps with cooling and keeps these running even in hot weather. And last is a very small USB cable that is used to connect the Arduino with the Raspberry Pi. The last thing in the hardware kit box is another small box, and this contains the solenoid valve for the water. So this is a 12 volt solenoid valve that you'll plug in with some quick connect connectors from the cable bag over here. And then this allows the FarmBot to control the flow of water from your garden hose to the universal tool mount. So in another one of these kits, we have some adapters that convert this from these threads here to the tubing, and also from these threads to the garden hose. And then we have the vacuum pump in a small bag. This is also a 12 volt device, and so this is connected to the ramps board as well, and sucks in air through one of these tubes and allows the seed injector to suction hold a seed to be able to move it and deposit it in the soil somewhere. Next, we will open up the motor kit. So we had these Nema 17 stepper motors specially designed for us. So if you pull out one of these motors, you'll want to be very careful. They have our logo engraved on them, a connector, and also a rotary encoder on the back. So this connector here is to power the stepper motor itself. That allows the Arduino and the ramp shield and the stepper drivers to power this motor and cause it to rotate. And these rotary encoders with the version 1.2 kits have 360 lines per revolution. So basically the encoder is detecting how much the motor has moved. So this rotary encoder is providing constant feedback to the Arduino and telling the Arduino and FarmBot where the motors are positioned. Again, there are 4 motors included in the kit, and that is because we have one for the Z direction, one for the Y direction, and 2 for the X direction. So the final box in the main box is the plate kit. Plate isn't super accurate because there's also all the plastic components in here, but we'll just call it the plate kit for now. But know that a lot of other components are in here that are not necessarily plates. These 2 that I've just pulled out are the seed bins. So we've included 2 of these with each FarmBot. These slot into the tool bay, and you can put in a whole bunch of the same seed in here, or a mixture of seeds if you don't care about knowing which seed is which. For example, just different varieties of the same crop. So you can put a bunch of seeds in here for bulk planting of your plants. Next, we have the seed tray. We've included 2 of these as well, and these are similar to the seed bins, but instead of one large bin or container, we have 16 smaller containers on each of these. So again, these slot into the tool bay, and this allows you to put a variety of seeds in here for FarmBot to plant in your garden. And you can also more precisely control the quantities of seeds that are deposited with each run of the seed injector. Here is the seeder tool, or sometimes we call it the seed injector. This is just the tool base, it's not the completed tool. So the completed tool will have magnets mounted and also a little adapter and the lure lock needle. The soil sensor tool is very similar to the seeder tool. Also machined Delrin, has the laser engraving, and then it also has a few little mounting posts down on the bottom that we mount the soil sensor printed circuit board itself. This is the watering tool. It's actually 2 components. One is what we call just the top half, and one is the bottom half. And so this accepts a water input from the universal tool mount on port number 3. And then that comes into the bottom here where we have this hollowed out section. And then this bottom piece takes that concentrated water stream coming from the tube and distributes it into kind of more of a shower stream. So it's more gentle on the plants, it's a little bit more distributed and less powerful of a stream. So this bottom piece mounts onto the bottom here, so you can put it on here and pop it in, and then screw it together with the same screws that hold the magnets on. Next, we have the weeding tool. This is also very similar to all the other tools, machined Delrin with the laser engraving. You'll notice that there's quite a few more holes in this one, and that's because this weeding tool is configurable. So we've included with all the kits some of these little implements is what we call them. We have the weeder spikes, and this is for kind of like poking holes in plants and pushing them under the soil. And then we also have the weeder blade, which is also for pushing plants under the soil. Again, the weeding tool is really designed to disrupt the root systems and push a very infant weed under the soil. Next, we have the universal tool mount cover. So this is also an injection molded component, again with the UV protective coating on it that makes it very glossy and shiny. And this component is used just to cover the universal tool mounts, electrical connections, and water tube connections to keep it protected from the rain. Up in the top here is where the universal tool mount cable comes in, as well as the tubes. We've only included the 2 tubes with the FarmBot kit. That's because we're only using 2 tubes. We have the air for the vacuum pump and the water for the solenoid valve. In the meantime, we included in this little bag a small plug that you can use to plug up that hole so that water doesn't go in from the rain. But again, you're welcome to expand upon FarmBot's functionality with that extra port. Also in this little bag are 3 small little metal pieces that we call the jumper links. They actually look kind of like a component from a bike chain, and that's used on the bottom of each of the tools to connect 2 of the electrical pins together to serve as a tool verification technique. The last machined Delrin component is the universal tool mount. This tool mount is mounted onto the Z-axis extrusion with this mounting flange here, and it is what accepts all of the electrical connections from the universal tool mount cable and all of the tubes for the water and the air. And then this interfaces with the tools themselves. So the tools can mount onto the universal tool mount. There will be magnets on top of the tools and also in the tool mount itself that allow the tool mount to magnetically hold the tools. So you'll load this up with screws and wires and gaskets and O-rings and magnets and all sorts of other components to make this a fully completed component. On the top here we have a laser engraving indicating where everything should go, so it's very easy using the documentation to make sure you wire it up correctly. We have two other injection molded components, and they are both the motor covers. So this is what we call the horizontal motor cover. A motor goes inside here, and then this cover protects it from the rain. And then we have the Z-axis motor cover, or we also call it the vertical motor housing. And this mounts on top of the Z-axis extrusion and protects the top motor and encoder from the rain and also the sun. So now we actually get into the plates of the plate kit box. So let's pull these out. The first one you'll find is one of the tool bays. This is a super cool component. This is what holds all of the tools. So they slot in here and are held for FarmBot to come and pick up when needed. So the universal tool mount will come over and magnetically hook to a tool and then pull it out and go and use the tool, then it can come back and put the tool away. So these tool bays, we've included two of them. They each have 3 slots, so you can load 3 different tools in there, and then you go into the web application, you specify where your tools are in the tool bays. It mounts to the raised bed using 6 wood screws right here, or you could mount it to an aluminum extrusion or some other supporting infrastructure if needed. This is the cross slide plate. So the cross slide is what moves along the gantry left and right. And so on here are just a bunch of holes where you can put the motor and the V-wheels and a whole bunch of other components. So in this packaging, we have all of the horizontal CC supports. CC is short for cable carrier. So these are mounted onto an aluminum extrusion, and then they act as just a support for the cable carriers to rest on. There are 6 belt clips, and they are what hold the belts at the ends of the tracks and at the end of the gantry main beam. So the CC spacer block is used to offset the mounting position of the Z-axis cable carrier from the cross slide plate, and that just helps line everything up. This is attached to the cross slide plate and allows you to hook up the Y-axis cable carrier. And these are simply small aluminum pieces that just help with the cable organization near the electronics box. In here we have the vertical CC supports. These components are designed to guide and support the Z-axis cable carrier. Again, these components are machined aluminum, just like all of the other cable carrier guides and supports. Though in the future, we anticipate injection molding these ones as well. So with the version 1.2 kits, these are like really premium, solid aluminum pieces, and in future versions, there'll be a really nice, high quality injection molded component out of an ABS plastic or something similar with a UV protection so that it doesn't fail in the sun. Here we have the gantry corner brackets. There are 2 of them, a left-hand and a right-hand version. So these are mounted onto the gantry columns, and then the gantry main beam aluminum extrusion is mounted between the 2. So these are a very important structural element of FarmBot. It holds the whole gantry together. This is the Z-axis motor mount. It is a machined piece of aluminum, 5 millimeters thick, and it allows the Z-axis motor to be mounted on top. This slot is for the cables to come down the Z-axis, and then the motor cover is put on top of this, so that fits on there very nicely. These holes right here are for mounting this plate onto the Z-axis extrusion. These plates are the track end plates. There are 4 of them in each kit. These plates are for mounting the track aluminum extrusions to the raised bed or other supporting infrastructure. So the aluminum extrusion mounts onto these 3 holes here with M5 by 10 millimeter screws and T-nuts, and then you use wood screws with these 3 holes to mount this to the raised bed. One of the small design features that we added that really helps with the installation are these small notches on the sides of this plate. And what these are for is to help you vertically align the plates onto your raised bed infrastructure. So for example, if this is your raised bed, you can mount the plate and line up the 2 notches right there so that you make sure that this is vertically aligned with the other plates. These are the track joining plates. They're very similar to the track end plates, but these join 2 aluminum extrusions together for the tracks. So one extrusion goes on these holes and the other on these holes. And then these holes are for mounting with wood screws to the raised bed. And again, these also have notches in the sides to help you position this plate vertically in relationship to the other plates. The last aluminum plates in the kit are the gantry plates, or the gantry wheel plates. These are some of the larger plates in the kit, and these are what the gantry columns are attached to, and these move along the tracks in the X direction. So we have holes here for mounting 5 V-wheels on the top and also 4 V-wheels on the bottom of the tracks. And then these 9 holes are for mounting the gantry column aluminum extrusion onto this plate. You'll see that there's a small notch in the side in the back here, and that is for when you're putting the gantry column extrusion on, you can line up the end with that notch, and so that you get both sides of the gantry columns vertically aligned. Last component in the whole kit is this right here. This is the electronics mounting plate. It is a laser cut piece of acrylic, and there's actually a protective backing on here that you can peel off, and this is actually, once you do that, it's a clear piece of plastic. And this is mounted into the electronics box, and then there's some holes on here for mounting the Raspberry Pi and the Arduino to this board. In the future, we anticipate this board changing as we change the electronics box and also the electronics themselves. Though you'd always be able to very easily drill more holes in here if you want to mount some different electronics. For example, maybe you want to use a different microcontroller or a different version of the Raspberry Pi. You can change the mounting holes in here very easily to accommodate that. The last thing in the kit, it's actually one of the first things that you'll see when you pull everything out, but I saved it for last here, are some stickers. So you can represent the FarmBot project on your water bottle or car. We also have a little thank you card for all of our early adopters. Just, saying thank you to all of those people who kind of took a leap of faith with us and said, I want to be a part of this, and I'm willing to be one of the early adopters of this brand new technology and help progress it. So we're very thankful for all of our first generation hardware backers, and also all the future FarmBot customers as well, and all the open source developers who've been contributing hardware designs and software in their free time to this project. Then we also have the Getting Started guide. This is really important. Once you unbox everything, it describes how you start assembling stuff. Where do you find the documentation, the step-by-step assembly instructions? So you can find all the websites on here. Also, how do you get involved with the community itself? So we have a forum and a wiki where you can brainstorm with other people and also ask questions. Our team is on there to answer any questions related to the kits themselves or the FarmBot technology. We also have a seed selection guide and a few other resources, both online and kind of community-based, for you to get help with your FarmBot, whether it's help assembling it or help modifying it, or if you just want to brainstorm or even share the successes or the failures that you've had in putting your kit together and doing things with it, whether it's growing some new plants or you making your own version of a tool. We want to hear about that, and the whole community could really benefit from your engagement with the community. So definitely check out the resources that we've laid out in the Getting Started guide, and we hope to see you on the forum and active in the community. So that was the unboxing of the FarmBot Genesis version 1.2 kit. Right here are all of the components included in the kit to build the 1.5 meter wide by 3 meter long FarmBot. So if you want to learn more, feel free to check out our documentation and all of our other videos so you can get even a closer look at the individual components, the assembly itself, and decide for yourself if you'd like to invest in a FarmBot kit. Thanks.